As you can see, this is a map of the world, and our country we're doing is Vietnam, which is that little country right around this area. Here you can see is a more in-depth picture of Vietnam, which is this country right here, the capital city of Hanoi. I think that's pronounced. It's right there. Our friend we saw earlier, Ngu Chu, lives right here in the small town of Dong Hoi.
It's Ngu Chu.
Here are a couple of images that are more propaganda against the French imperialization. As you can see here, here's a Vietnamese man fighting in the war. He's got a grenade and a rifle. And surprisingly, little children with this crossbow and women also with this rifle also fought in the war against France. And here is another one, which is also they want the U.S. troops out of Vietnam because the U.S. was helping France and they didn't like France at all.
In 1854, the French invaded Vietnam. The country was damaged by almost 100 years of wars and rebellions. But how has the French colonization affected Vietnam in the long run?
Well, Vietnam pretty much sucks. They have a communistic government, high risk of diseases such as hepatitis A and typhoid fever. They are really behind the times. They don't really have a very good telephone systems and 44 airports. Only 37 of them are paid. Totally ridiculous. And another thing that's terrible is like a producer of opium poppy, which used to make heroin, so they got heroin addicts all over the place.
That's horrible.
It is terrible. It really is.
Hold on. This is Bob Smith, media consultant. Alright. Professor Wilson Chow, I understand that you have been studying the effects of French imperialism in Vietnam.
Yes, I have.
Well, did the French ever successfully conquer Vietnam?
Well, the French didn't actually successfully conquer Vietnam because when they went in and took over they let the Vietnamese people do whatever they wanted, but the Vietnamese people didn't like it. And eventually the Vietnamese revolted against the French, leading into the Indochina War.
Well, how did they fail?
Well, the Vietnamese took some of the French technology, weapons and stuff, and just started hosing down all the French. And even the U.S. helped the French, and still they didn't.
So then what happened to the French after the war was over?
After the war was over, the French left for a while, and then a couple years later, the French came back and tried to get it again. Start again.
So then when the French did leave, what happened to Vietnam?
Well, Vietnam really is not a very good place right now. It has a poor economy, as
Bob Smith.
As Bob Smith said. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time.
In mid-March 1954, the French government told Washington, D.C., the Vietnamese were winning the Indochina War. This was very bad for the French. They had low ammunition supplies, and they told the U.S. that they wanted out of the Indochina War. So the French left and the U.S. stayed for a couple of years, and the Vietnamese still wanted the U.S. out also.
Next we have an ordinary citizen brought in from Vietnam itself. Hello, Mr. Ngu Chu. It's Ngu Chu. Right. Well, do you remember the day that the French first came to your village? I do. They were shooting lasers out of their fingertips, and they shot my dog Winfrey. Really? That is, horrible. How would you say that the French impacted your life in the village? Well, to avenge my dog, me and some of my buddies stole some of the French modernized weapons, and we fought them. And when Vietnam gained independence, did your life change for better or for worse? When the French left, we celebrated like it was 1982. Unfortunately, my life had no purpose, and then I went on this talk show. So what you're saying is that after the French left, Vietnam wasn't in very good condition, but at least you were free. Yes. Is that a good one?
Thank you for watching, and this program has been brought to you by balloons. Those balloons sure can float. Well, not that one.
It's Nugu Chu.